Hey guys, this is the 4 o'clock guy, and wanted to do a little video about some of the EDC gear that got us into EDC. And what prompted this is this little flashlight right here, the Streamlight Microstream. So anyways, this backstory to this is a few months ago I had this in my pocket and I went to Home Depot, and when I got home this was not in my pocket anymore. So I had really written it off, thought that somehow I reached in my pocket while I was at the store and this came out of my pocket, and I was no longer the proud owner of a Microstream. But a couple days ago, my wife drove my car, and I don't know if this rolled out from under the seat or where it came from, because I know I've looked high and low for this thing, but this was sitting next to my car keys a couple days ago. So I was very happy to have this back in the collection, and this was my very first LED flashlight that I purchased when I started getting into EDC gear, much like we all do. This was probably in everybody's collection at some point, so whether you still have it or not. But it started getting me thinking about some of my old gear that I used to have growing up, and you know, getting into EDC before I even knew what EDC was. And this was definitely one of those items. This was my dad's. It's a 2 D cell mag light, and he had this one, and then he upgraded to the big 6 cell one, and so he gave me this one. And you know, anytime I went camping, I was in Boy Scouts, I had this one with me and I had this one with me. And you know, back in the day, this was somehow bright enough for me. I don't know how, but because it's like 1 lumen, but it certainly got the job done. And I know I went through a few of these, because this I know is not my original one. My original one is way more beat up than this one, and you can see this one's pretty well worn as well. But you know, I had a number of these growing up, and they always did the job for me. And these were 2 flashlights that were a must-have, and for me this was an awesome little combo. So anyways, those were 2 must-have flashlights growing up. And then being in Boy Scouts, I also had some Swiss Army knives, Victorinox. This is a Tinker, and I probably went through a few of these too in my day. This was the last one that I had in Boy Scouts, but I know I've had this for, gosh, over 20 years. I've had it since, you know, I was in Boy Scouts, which was long ago. And you know, I probably had a few knockoff ones, and I think I had a few, you know, actual Victorinox ones along the way, and this was the last one that I owned while in Scouts. And I remember the more layers that you had, the cooler you were. So if you had a Swiss Champ, you were like the man. But this was a must-have, and like I said, I probably went through a number of those growing up. And of course, this is the mom-friendly version of it. You know, if your mom was going to freak out, you know, this was easy to throw in your pocket, and it wasn't a big deal. So you had to have the classic. And these were the only 2 colors they had. So you wanted a Swiss Army knife, you had a red one. Then you had to have the original carabiner. None of this S-beaner stuff. I mean, you had the original S-beaner, or the original carabiner. So had to have one of these. And then this was my actual first folder that I had, and this was not purchased. I think I've told this in a few other videos. Out of college, I lived in a cheap rent house with a buddy of mine, and I found this. It was in the bushes in a not so good part of town. So who knows what this was actually used for. I'd rather not know. But as you can see, it is well worn, scratched, and used. And actually, this was the first knife that I had with serrations, and this is what made me really not care for serrations too much. I just learned that I'd rather just have a plain edge. But this is certainly a good working knife. I still use this. It's in my toolbox out in the garage, and anytime I go outside and I'm doing yard work, this is the one that I grab. So it's my original flipper, the CRKT M16-13. So, and this is pre any kind of locking mechanism. It's just the line lock, and that is it. So there's that. And then you can't survive college without one of these. I probably bought this at a convenience store for 99 cents or whatever. And no, that is not stone washed, that is key washed. This was on my car keys for the better part of a decade or longer. At least 10, 12 years. I can't even tell you. But as you can see, it's held up nice, and it has certainly done the job well. It is no Vox snail, but it got the job done in college. And then after graduating college, you start earning a nice little paycheck. And I always liked my Swiss Army knives, and I wanted a nicer pair, so I bought these two. And this, of course, is just an ALOX model of the Classic. So that was my upgrade to that. And then I wanted an upgrade to this, and I got this Wenger. And you can see it is in 1998, the year after I graduated college. And I carried this quite a bit too, believe it or not. So, doesn't have a whole lot of wear on it. I guess that is a good sign of the ALOX and how well it wears. Of course, I'm not very abusive to my stuff anyways. I keep it very clean. So, but anyways, just kind of reminiscing about the EDC gear that we had growing up. I've always been fascinated with this kind of stuff. So it goes way, 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 way back. So anyways, thanks for listening to me ramble. Appreciate you guys watching. 4 o'clock guy.